So you know how we're sitting there and we're watching how much U.S. keeps giving to Ukraine. And Yellen just went there this week, and she announced that they're giving an additional
1.2, but then promising
billion,
10 billion.
But promising 10, right? Here's 1.2, but promising 10. But promising 10. And, you know, so people are like, oh, my God, how much more money? I think the total right now is $114 billion, give or take, okay? Jesus. Do you realize a couple things? You know what's the fastest way to stop this war? If you're so worried about 300,000 people that have died with the number that you give us, 200,000 on the Russia's end, 100,000 on Ukraine's end, you know what's the fastest way to finish the war? Do you know what's the fastest way to finish the war? Stop giving money.
Yeah.
Do you realize that? If you really don't want war, stop giving money and set up the meeting. How come you haven't done that? It's as if America wants this war to continue. Okay. So when a Tulsi Gabbard or some of these guys get up and they talk about the military-industrial complex, you keep funding this. There's a reason why millions of people resonate with what Tulsi Gabbard and others have to say. Maybe you do want war. Maybe this is a business model. Maybe there is a benefit of us doing this to continue this model that we're going with all these wars. Because if America truly wants no war right now, you can stop the money, you can stop sending weapons, and if you do that, Ukraine has no choice to say, let's talk, let's figure something out, right? Now watch this. If you can pull up one of the things that we've been sending to Ukraine is these Javelin missile launchers. Okay, a couple stats I want you to see with this year. If you can go back to the first one, go all the way to the first one, go one more. There's one other picture I sent you, which is the budget that we have. Okay, zoom in on this picture here. Take a look at this. This is our budget in 2021 versus other militaries' budget that we have. U.S. 801 in 2021. Look at China. Look at India. You could look at UK. Look at everyone else. We have a massive military budget that we have. A big chunk of this is financing the 800 military bases that we have, okay? Trying to solve other people's problems. But the one thing we've given to Ukraine a lot is 8,500 javelins to Ukraine. That's what U.S. has committed. If you want to Google what a javelin is and what it looks like, military Ukraine, so people can see it, 8,500 of them that's been given to Ukraine. There's a reason why Ukraine is doing so well against Russia, because this is not a war with Ukraine against Russia. This is a war of U.S. versus Russia, okay? Period. It's public. It's not even something we're hiding. We've given 8,500 of those to Ukraine. So what's the big deal? You know, somebody may say, what's the big deal about these javelins we're giving to them? Raytheon and Lockheed Martin have both said that what's been pledged from U.S. in existing stock, they cannot do double the production and give America back what they have till 2026. Meaning everything we pretty much have on stock of javelins, we've pretty much given to who? To Ukraine, okay? These are the numbers that we've given to them just to support what they got going on. So now, as you get closer with this article that Wall Street Journal has, they show this data. Tom, you're going to love this here. If you can show this on the screen so our audience can see this, these are the numbers of contractors U.S. had in 1980 that we did business with, okay? When I say contractors, defense company contractors, okay, that this is where we got our weapons from. So if you look at this, Vinny, 1981, there was 51 companies we did business with. Every year or so, one or two got bought out. Mm-hmm. We went from 51 to how many? Down to 5.
Oh, wow.
Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics, okay? So one could look at this and say, well, what's the big deal with this? Show the next data. If you go to this one, go two more, go one more, okay? From 1990, the number of contractors we had, tactical missile suppliers, we had 13 that we bought from. We only have 3 today. Fixed-wing aircraft suppliers, we had 8. We got 3 today. Satellite suppliers, we had 8. We got 4 today. Builders of surface ships, we had 8. We have 2 today, okay? These guys that keep buying up these companies, this is essentially being a similar model to banks. How many banks do we have in 1980s? A ton of them. Mm-hmm. How many banks do we have today? It's really only 5 companies.
Or cell phone companies.
Cell phone companies.
Or retail,
the same as
Amazon, Walmart.
Everything is going to this.
Consolidation.
Everything. I remember being on a call with FTC when one of the bigger insurance technology companies, it's a behemoth. If you're in the insurance, don't say the name. If you're in the insurance industry, you know who I'm talking about. They were about to buy up another competitor whom we were doing business with, both of them. And they said, hey, we would like to know XYZ. They're asking because they were pretty much having a monopoly. Some of these guys have so much control right now, which the problem becomes the following. Is America, you know how you raise money and all of a sudden you buy 50 different companies? One by one, by one, by one, by one. You keep buying other companies because you have the money. And then all of a sudden, what happens to you? You wake up one day, you're like, dude, we got 400 companies that we bought the last 5 years. We have no clue how to manage these companies. One by one, they're going bankrupt. What the hell are we going to do? You've stretched yourself so thin. You now have 400-500 military bases to manage. How do you do that? The problem today with America is if we keep giving all these weapons to other people, our own supply is getting weaker. And Northrop and Raytheon are saying, we can't replace this for you till 2026. Wow. That's 3 years. Our own military is getting weaker. The more we try to support everyone, God forbid if the enemy realizes that military in U.S. is experiencing this, what does that tell you? That's an opportunity for what?
Attack.
To attack.
Of course.
To realize, hey, they're not as strong as we once thought.
Of course.
That's a real threat. And to say that we're getting this close to potential war, this is the closest we've been since, what do you want to call it, the Cuban
Missile Crisis?
I would say that's the closest we've been where we could be a part of this, and we keep poking the bear. So then the story leads to this, and then Tom, I want to get your thoughts on this first, and Vinny, I'm going to come to you next.
Okay.
As our AI expert. So story comes out, Putin will die in office or with bullets in his back as despots' futures predicted, okay? So this is a story on page 13. War expert Nate Sibley believes that Vladimir Putin will die while serving as president of Russia and that he could be assassinated. Sibley states that Putin's watched carefully as other Soviet Union leaders try to extricate themselves from authoritarian regimes as they failed, and that whatever his future holds, it is increasingly unlikely to be a happy ending, either of old age or bullets in his back. Putin has previously survived several assassination attempts, with Oliver Stone stating in 2012 interview that he had heard of 5 attempts. Putin himself responded, I do my job and the security officers do theirs, and they're still performing quite successfully. Putin's health has been a subject of much speculation over the years, with claims that he has Parkinson's and travels with a thyroid cancer doctor. However, he has stated in the past that he has no plans to retire, and he has changed the constitution to allow him to rule indefinitely, making modern-day Russia a true autocracy. So, with all this stuff going on in the world and the uncertainties that we have, I just think America may want to kind of step back and take an inventory. Are we as strong as we act like we are? Or we have stretched ourselves so thin around the world that this may have given an opening for somebody to say, you know what, if there's ever been a time to attack, maybe this is the time. Obviously, nobody wants to see war. This next one won't be pretty. The goal is to prevent this war. Tom, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, every Russian leader dies in office because as much as they say, oh, we have elections here. Yeah, right. Yeah. Your guy serves until he doesn't, right? That's the way that is. And to say, well, he'll either die in office, which is a certainty, or he'll die in office with assistance, because he's going to get shot. I don't think there's really a story there. But what you're talking about is where's the United States really on the world stage? And I agree with you. If you just unload the cupboard and give all this stuff to the Ukraine, the first thing I worry about is, Ukraine is kind of depleted on their own military, Pat. How do we feel when Russians capture a Ukrainian unit and they get a hold of a couple of these? Now they got our stuff and they can take it apart and figure it out and, copy it. That's always been part of war, is capture the other guy's crap and then reverse engineer it or find out the secrets that are inside his weapons. And I think that the U.S. on a world stage right now, is a little bit depleted. Now, this is a defense contractor saying it's going to take me 2 years to rebuild all those missiles. And can I send you an invoice today? So it's also, people sit there and go, hey, buy some Raytheon today. Why,
By the way, I'm sure those guys are loving what's going on
course.
today. I'm sure they're saying, send more stuff to Ukraine.
course.
Send more stuff to Ukraine. Because I got to replace it for you, and there's only 5 of us.
Yeah, there's
Well, the
There's only
defense
4 others we're
contractors
competing against.
The defense contractors, believe it or not, lobby for a thing called war games, where you see the war games going on.
Yeah, they do that in South Korea a lot.
Yeah, they lobby for the use of it. And now, obviously, they don't use nukes in war games, but they use up a lot of stuff. They do simulations, they do a lot of things, and then you need replacement parts, you need all this stuff, and it's another invoice to the defense contractors. But to your core point, yeah, I do think we're getting slightly weakened on an international stage in terms of actual readiness of having the tools that we need to fight. And then we're also, I think, getting weak because, we could do 5 podcasts in a row on the flip-flops on Ukraine. We're just going to hey, it's not our business. It's not our business to here's billions of dollars worth of stuff to fight. Remember where this started? We're not going to get involved in a proxy war and be shipping our stuff over there. Okay, give them some tanks. Remember this?
Yeah.
It's been a slippery slope. And so I don't think our position looks very strong. We change every 3 weeks, and I think we're weaker on a world stage.
I think the best, what's the saying in football? Where the Ravens won
The
2
best
Super Bowls.
offense is defense.
Yeah.
The best offense is a great defense.
Yes.
That's what Ronald Reagan said.
If we have a great military defense, guess what? No one is doing anything. Now, you know how you create fund account, like you're like, hey, I have a savings, your investment, your this, and you create a what? You create a splurge account or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
You know what the fund account, splurge account is to me? Here's the weapons that we can give to others for support, but we will never touch what we need to be protected. So this is what we need to be protected. Guess what?
Yeah.
The Javelin, we're hitting shortage. We can only give you 700. We can't give you the whole 8,600.
Yeah.
Those are the things. As long as we're playing within those parameters, then we can support those that have generally been a good ally to us.
I'll just say this. I think we have every right to question the amount of money that is going to Ukraine. Okay. What I think is unquestionable is standing up to authoritarian regimes who are invading sovereign nations. I mean, if you look at this article, right? Ukraine is the West war now. It's not just the U.S. It is the entire Western world, Western civilization, the EU, NATO. Okay, but here it is. The Western alliance's geopolitical adversaries are calculating whether the U.S. and its allies have the stamina and the cohesion to defend, here it is, the rules-based international order that has benefited the West for decades. The future of Taiwan and South China Sea is closely linked to the West's record in Ukraine. So there's precedent, there's rules, there's a rules-based international order. Like we've said before, you can't just go invade a country. What precedent does that establish? So next thing you know, he invades Ukraine, and then it's what? He takes over Kiev, he owns Ukraine now. And then it's Poland, and then what happens? So at some point, the only thing that strong men respond to is the word no. You can't do shit like this, Putin. We have every right to question how much money we're spending. Totally right. But to stand, there's hard power and there's soft power. Right now, we need to be projecting both. Hard power is actually fighting in wars, but soft power is also standing for democracy.
No, nobody. Like, for example, what FDR did to get a third term, and what Putin's doing to get a third term, and what he was doing to, what was his name, Zavalny or Navalny, what was his... in Russia, the competitor of Alexei Navalny, were in the airport on a flight, he was poisoned.
It was insane.
We're not supportive of that at all, whatsoever. No one is saying that. All I'm saying is, you can't control what your enemy does. Mm-hmm. You try to. America's tried for many, many years, and some of them they've been able to control. This is not an enemy you can control. We have to pivot on our own, knowing discretionary that we can afford after all our expenses are covered, fine. But our expenses are not covered. Our defense is not covered. And we're trying to solve everyone's problem.
Yeah.
And we're spending way too much money with this.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.